I quite like the idea of getting some of the texture that I've got in the cattle already into the sky. So as you can see, I'm rolling the brush and twisting it to see what kind of effects I can get. So I quite like that so far. Let's grab a little bit more paint. And keep varying the way I'm applying the brush to the surface of the painting. I want to get a little bit more white in the clouds on the right, I think. So I've just picked up a little corner of white, pure white there. And I quite like the idea of having a sort of a bulkier, massive cloud at the top, and then a few wispier bits as we come down towards the horizon. So I still want to keep this pale colour predominantly in place, but I think just a few little wisps of this darker colour will work quite well. And I've just very gently introduced, diagonals there as well, so that's sort of leading the eye into the main focus of the painting. It's not sort of laboured, it's not like straight lines, but I think that helps lead the eye to the focus of the painting. Well, the next thing I want to do is add a little bit of contrast to the pale sky down at the bottom here. So I've cleaned my brush, but not all that thoroughly, I mean pretty well. There's a little bit of blue and white on there, and I've just added some burnt umber to my palette, and that's what I've got on the brush for the most part. So I'm just going to break up this line here. So just the very tips of the brush here. Just to add a little bit of contrast, as mentioned, to the pale sky. And what's quite nice is, because I put down the paint quite thickly on the sky and I use that wobble, there are little ridges in the surface of the paint, and as I flick the burnt umber across the surface very lightly, that's picking up those ridges and leaving them pale, and I really quite like that effect. So that wasn't my plan when I started the painting, but I'm happy to exploit that now that I've discovered it. So I'm just varying the angle of my brush strokes a little bit as well, and also the height to which I take the brush stroke, so that it's not too uniform. And then I'll also just tap in with the ends of the bristles a couple of longer bits too. Now while we have that colour on the brush, we'll add that where we can. Now I've got to be a little bit careful here, because there's a fine line, in my opinion, between using a brush which is big and expressive and then one which is so big that you can't really do a decent job. And for the size of the cattle and the size of this brush, it's pretty, could get a little, a little